What if I told you that Domino's Pizza, one of the world's biggest pizza brands, was once on the edge of collapse? From a single struggling store built by Tom Monaghan to a rapidly expanding empire, the journey was anything but smooth. The 30-minute delivery guarantee controversy, the Noid incident, viral employee scandals, and a major quality crisis after 2008 all pushed the company into some of its darkest moments. Sales dropped, reputation suffered, and the stock crashed to rock bottom. At one point, it seemed like the story was over. But instead of falling apart, Domino's did something unexpected. It fought back. Through bold decisions, reinvention, and relentless resilience, the company rewrote its own future. A story that proves even the biggest failures can lead to the greatest turnarounds. On March 25th, 1937, Tom Monaghan is born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, into a modest but stable family. His father works as a truck driver, his mother is pursuing nursing, and for a short time, life feels secure. But that stability shatters when his father dies from an infection on Christmas Eve, 1941. At just 4 years old, Tom is left confused and heartbroken. With no steady income, his mother is forced to give up her dreams and take a low-paying factory job, earning just $27.50 a week, nowhere near enough to raise 2 children. Faced with an impossible choice, she sends Tom and his brother Jim into foster care, hoping it's temporary. It isn't. What follows are 7 years of instability, moving between homes, feeling unwanted, and struggling to belong. Their first foster home is strict and filled with conflict, and after 2 years, they're sent away again, this time to St. Joseph's Home for Boys, an orphanage run by nuns. There, Tom is often bullied for being small, but instead of backing down, he fights back and pays the price through harsh discipline. In a place with no comfort or safety, survival becomes his only focus, and without realizing it, the chaos around him begins shaping the resilience that would later define his life. While at the boarding school, Tom often escaped into dreams of a completely different life. One day, he told his class he wanted to become a priest, an architect, and even a shortstop for the Detroit Tigers. A mix so ambitious that the other kids laughed, telling him it was impossible. But for Tom, ambition wasn't a joke, it was an exit. Even in the middle of hardship, he kept telling himself and others that one day he would be rich and famous. The school, despite its harshness, planted something valuable in him. A relentless work ethic, and the belief that no matter how tough things get, quitting isn't an option. In 1949, his mother finally returned as a qualified nurse, and the brothers moved back in with her, hoping life would stabilize. It didn't. Money was still tight, and Tom had to step up early, taking on small jobs to support the family. Delivering newspapers, picking cherries in the summer, and selling produce door to door. But he didn't just work, he observed. In every job, he looked for ways to be faster, smarter, more efficient. Because to him, more efficiency meant more money. Without realizing it, this was his first real exposure to sales and entrepreneurship, something he naturally gravitated toward. At home, things continued to fall apart. Constant arguments with his mother strained their relationship until, just over a year after reuniting, she sent Tom and his brother back into foster care, admitting she couldn't handle raising them alone. The instability returned, and while his brother eventually went back to live with her, Tom was sent to work on a farm, enduring long, exhausting days. It was there, in the middle of that harsh reality, that he had an epiphany, deciding he would become a priest. He applied to St. Joseph's Seminary in Michigan and was accepted in 1952, finally feeling like he had found his purpose, but less than a year later, he was expelled. Officially for minor rule breaking, but Tom believed it was because he didn't maintain a strong relationship with his mother, which the seminary valued deeply. Just like that, his dream collapsed, leaving him more crushed than ever before. Things only got worse when Tom was forced to move back in with his unstable mother, and their constant arguments quickly returned. With no money, worn-out clothes, and growing frustration, life felt suffocating. One day, after taking the car without telling her, his mother called the police. And when Tom refused to apologize, it escalated beyond just another fight. Days later, he was picked up by a sheriff and sent to a juvenile detention home until 18, despite not committing any real crime. By now, his life had become a cycle of instability, foster homes, orphanages, farm work, and now detention, and he felt completely betrayed, believing his mother had destroyed his future. These were some of his darkest years until his aunt stepped in and took custody, finally giving him a sense of stability. Despite everything, Tom still believed he was meant for something bigger. He enrolled in Ferris State College, improved his performance, and even earned acceptance into the University of Michigan. But once again, money stood in his way. Looking for a solution, he decided to join the Army for financial support, only to realize midway through the process that he had accidentally signed up for the Marines instead. Rather than back out, he committed, using his time there to build discipline, improve himself, and read extensively, later believing that surviving the Marines meant he could handle anything. All the while, he dreamed of building a massive future for himself. In 1959, after an honorable discharge, he set out to chase that vision with about $2,000 saved for college. But one bad decision wiped it all out. He fell for a convincing oil investment scam and lost nearly everything, leaving him with just $15. Determined to change his situation, he took a job selling newspaper subscriptions and quickly stood out by offering home delivery, unknowingly getting his first taste of the delivery business. More importantly, he began learning the fundamentals of running a business, from bookkeeping to dealing with suppliers, and realized he not only enjoyed it but had a knack for it. Then an unexpected opportunity arrived. His brother Jim, who worked part-time at a restaurant, told him about a struggling pizzeria called Domino's that the owner wanted to sell for just $500, though it came with over $2,000 in debt. Despite the risk, it sparked something in Tom, setting the stage for a decision that would change everything. Jim approached Tom with the idea of buying a struggling pizzeria called Domino's, suggesting they run it together by splitting shifts, allowing Jim to keep his mailman job while Tom continued his studies. It sounded like a perfect opportunity, and despite having little money, they pooled their savings and took a $900 loan to buy the store and get started. With help from the original owner, they learned how to make pizza and opened the business in December 1960. The early days were slow. They didn't even have a phone at first, but sales gradually improved, reaching $750 a week. However, most of their customers were college students, and when the semester ended, sales dropped sharply. The pressure led to constant arguments between the brothers, and within 8 months, Jim decided to quit, realizing the business demanded more than he was willing to give. In the end, Tom bought out his share by giving him the Volkswagen Beetle, the car they used for delivery, taking full control of the struggling business on his own. In hindsight, trading 50% of what would become a billion-dollar company for an old car seems like a terrible deal, but at the time, it felt like Jim had won. Tom was left alone with a struggling business and no choice but to go all in, sacrificing his college dream once again. Fully committed, he worked relentlessly, even living in the store and surviving on leftover pizzas when money ran low. Putting in 100-hour weeks, he slowly turned things around, improving operations, hiring a small team, and even studying competitors to learn what worked. A breakthrough came when he learned a better pizza sauce recipe from a local restaurant owner, instantly improving quality and boosting sales. As the business gained momentum, Tom began thinking bigger, realizing that if it worked here, it could work in other college towns, setting his sights on expansion. To expand, Tom needed someone he could trust to run the original store, and that's when he met Jim Gilmore, an experienced pizzeria owner with a troubled past. Impressed by his knowledge, Tom offered him a partnership, agreeing to give him 50% ownership for a promised $500, money he never actually paid. Desperate for help, Tom accepted, unknowingly signing a deal where all debts remained his responsibility. On paper, it seemed like the perfect setup. Gilmore would manage the first store while Tom expanded, but in reality, it quickly turned into a disaster as the store's performance declined under Gilmore's control, putting everything Tom had built at risk. Under Gilmore's management, the original store began to decline. Sales dropped, costs rose, and money was poorly managed, with quality slipping and unnecessary expenses piling up. While Tom worked nonstop trying to grow the second store, Gilmore contributed little, taking advantage of the situation. Eventually, as Gilmore's health worsened, they agreed to part ways. This time, Tom protected himself with legal help and finally escaped the partnership, but was left in debt. Even when advised to file for bankruptcy, he refused, choosing instead to work his way out, pushing himself to the limit day and night. Amid this chaos, a rare bright moment appeared. In 1962, during a delivery, he met Margie. Despite his busy life, he pursued her, and within a year, they were married. At 25, Tom told her he would be a millionaire by 30, and he meant it. But his relentless work and stress sometimes took a toll, even affecting his personal life. Soon after, a conflict erupted with Dominic Dvati, who demanded that Tom stop using the name Dominic's, claiming it was causing confusion. Tom, convinced it stemmed from jealousy, reacted angrily, escalating the situation until legal action forced him to rebrand. Reluctant, but left with no choice, Tom turned to an ad agency, which suggested choosing a similar-sounding name to retain recognition. After many failed ideas, a delivery driver finally suggested Domino's, and the moment Tom heard it, he knew it was the one. Tom rebranded the business from Dominic's to Domino's, suggested by a delivery guy at Domino's choosing a bold domino logo with 3 dots to represent his 3 stores, unaware of how big it would eventually become. Now fully in control, he continued growing steadily, especially near college campuses. Then one night, when half his staff didn't show up, he simplified the menu to manage orders, and surprisingly, it became one of his most profitable nights. Looking at the data, he realized over 80% of orders were for 12-inch pizzas. That insight led to a key decision: cut down the menu and focus on what sells, making operations faster, simpler, and more profitable. Tom doubled down on simplicity. Instead of offering endless options, he limited the menu, mostly 12-inch pizzas, later adding 16-inch, a single crust, just a few toppings, and even only one drink, Coca-Cola. He removed low-profit items like sandwiches, making operations faster, cheaper, and more efficient. Surprisingly, fewer choices didn't reduce sales. It increased profits, as customers simply ordered more of what worked. This less is more approach became a core principle, helping Domino's master speed and consistency. Then came an even bolder move, focusing almost entirely on delivery. Instead of dine-in, Tom promoted fast, free delivery, cutting costs by keeping stores small and eliminating the need for waitstaff. While others saw delivery as secondary, Tom turned it into the core business, creating a system that was not only efficient, but also hard for competitors to replicate. Domino's quickly stood out by focusing on delivery, unlike competitors who prioritized dine-in or takeout. But this created a new challenge: keeping pizzas hot and intact during delivery. Instead of ignoring the problem, Tom innovated. He pushed manufacturers to create a stronger, insulated, corrugated cardboard box that could retain heat and support stacking without damaging the pizza. Despite initial resistance, he insisted, and the result was a game-changing design that helped Domino's deliver better quality food. He didn't stop there. Domino's introduced insulated delivery bags and more efficient revolving ovens, making operations faster and more scalable. With these innovations improving both speed and quality, the business became highly efficient, and Tom began setting his sights on the next big step: franchising. Tom wasn't satisfied with just a few stores, he wanted an empire. Inspired by other fast food chains, he began franchising in 1967, targeting college campuses and military bases, where demand was high and advertising was cheap. The strategy worked fast, and Domino's expanded rapidly, but success turned into overconfidence. By 1969, they had opened 32 new stores, many of which failed, leaving the company $1.5 million in debt. Forced to hand control to the bank, costs were cut and prices raised, but it only made things worse, leading to lawsuits and deeper losses. Taking back control, Tom made a bold shift. Instead of charging upfront franchise fees, he required operators to first prove themselves by successfully running a store. This risky move restored quality and laid the foundation for smarter, more sustainable growth. Tom strengthened his franchise system by ensuring owners had real experience before running a store, which improved success rates. He also introduced a centralized supply system. Ingredients were prepared in bulk at one hub and distributed to all locations. This cut costs, ensured consistent quality, and allowed stores to be smaller, cheaper, and more efficient. With constant market research and operational improvements, Domino's recovered from its earlier debt crisis and returned to strong growth, reaching 42 stores by 1969 and 200 by 1978. But competition was catching up, especially as rivals began focusing on delivery. To stay ahead, Tom made a bold move in 1984. Domino's guaranteed delivery within 30 minutes or the pizza was free, a strategy that would redefine the industry. The 30-minute guarantee fueled massive growth for Domino's, helping it expand to over 5,000 stores in the 1980s and go global, while also allowing Tom to achieve personal milestones like buying the Detroit Tigers. But the same strategy soon backfired. Reports of accidents involving delivery drivers, allegedly rushing to meet the deadline, led to lawsuits, negative media attention, and a growing public backlash. What once drove success became a major liability, forcing Domino's to drop the 30-minute guarantee and replace it with a safer customer satisfaction promise. After dropping the 30-minute guarantee, Domino's introduced a strange new mascot called the Noid, a chaotic, villain-like character meant to represent anything that could delay delivery. Despite its bizarre concept, the Noid became surprisingly popular, appearing in ads, merchandise, and even video games. However, in 1989, things took a dark turn when a mentally unstable man named Kenneth Noid, believing the campaign targeted him personally, held Domino's employees hostage. Although no one was harmed, the incident created a disturbing association, and Domino's quickly pulled the Noid from its advertising. Years later, the character would make a comeback, but its history remained one of the strangest chapters in the company's story. As Domino's expanded globally, Tom became extremely wealthy and began donating heavily to causes tied to his Catholic beliefs. However, his public stance, especially against abortion, sparked major controversy. After donating to anti-abortion groups and canceling events linked to pro-choice organizations, a nationwide boycott of Domino's was launched in 1989, with critics accusing him of using business profits to push personal beliefs. Facing growing backlash and concerned about the impact on employees and franchise owners, Tom eventually decided to step away. Though he initially denied it, he later admitted the controversy influenced his decision. After some delay, due to business performance, he finally sold Domino's in 1998 to Bain Capital for $1.1 billion, marking a remarkable journey from a troubled childhood to building a global empire. In 2004, after 44 years as a privately held company, Domino's began trading common stock on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol DPZ. In 2009, 2 employees posted viral videos showing themselves contaminating food as a prank. Although no customers were actually served the food, the damage was immediate. The videos spread rapidly online, gaining millions of views and triggering a major backlash. Domino's quickly identified and fired the employees, sanitized the store, and issued a public apology. But it wasn't enough to stop the reputational hit. The incident went viral before the response could catch up, and studies showed a significant drop in customer trust, proving how quickly a brand's image can be damaged in the digital age. Domino's faced more backlash when a viral photo showed employees reselling cheap supermarket wedges at high prices, but the bigger issue was declining quality. After the 2008 crisis, costs rose, Domino's cut corners, and customers noticed. Sales dropped and the stock fell below $3. Then CEO Patrick Doyle stepped in. Honest feedback revealed harsh truths, even calling the pizza cardboard. So Domino's made a bold move. They completely reinvented their recipe, supply chain, and product from scratch. This turnaround led to massive success, with the stock growing nearly 4,000% over the next decade. Domino's made a bold comeback by completely reinventing its pizza, from dough to sauce, and openly admitting their old product wasn't good. Their honest ad campaign, featuring real criticism, rebuilt customer trust and drove massive sales growth. In 2015, Domino's Pizza entered Italy and through franchise partner ePizza SPA, launching its first store in Milan, with the goal of disrupting the market using American-style pizza, fast delivery, and digital ordering. Despite expanding to nearly 29 outlets and planning hundreds more, the brand struggled to win over Italian consumers who remain deeply loyal to traditional, high-quality local pizzerias. While Domino's attempted to adapt by using local ingredients, its standardized product failed to match authentic Italian expectations. The situation worsened during COVID-19, when local pizzerias rapidly adopted delivery services, erasing Domino's key advantage. Ultimately, mounting losses led ePizza SPA to declare bankruptcy in 2022, forcing Domino's Pizza to exit the Italian market entirely by July of that year. However, as the world reopened in 2022 and 2023, growth began to slow due to changing consumer habits, rising inflation, and increased competition. Despite this, Domino's remained resilient, stabilizing its performance in 2024 and 2025 with steady revenue growth, rising profits, and continued global expansion, including hundreds of new store openings. While some markets face weaker demand and operational pressures, the company adapted through innovation, pricing strategies, and operational efficiency. Overall, this period highlights how Domino's successfully navigated post-pandemic uncertainty, proving its ability to evolve and sustain long-term growth even in challenging conditions.